Hello everyone and welcome to another video. The year is 1986 and oh boy is Doctor Who going through some very tough times. After being put on hiatus for 18 months, the show comes back for its 23rd season. This season is made up of one season-long story arc called The Trial of a Time Lord, where the Doctor is once again put on trial by his people. The season initially runs on the Christmas Carol idea of showing the past, present and future in the Doctor's own personal timeline. The season is eventually wrapped up with arguably mixed results in the final 2 episodes, which would later be given the title of The Ultimate Foe. In our timeline, this marks the end of Colin Baker's brief and trouble-ridden time as the Doctor, with his final words in the part being the infamous
"Carrot juice, carrot juice, carrot juice."
But this was only after producer John Nathan Turner was told to fire Colin by the BBC high-ups. This all understandably deeply upset Colin, especially as he had wanted to break Tom Baker's 7-year records to become the longest running Doctor. Thankfully, in our timeline, Colin at least got to do lots of Big Finish audios later on, which have helped fans see his Doctor in a new and much more positive light. Big Finish even gave the 6th Doctor a much better send-off than he got on TV, with a special release called The 6th Doctor The Last Adventure in 2015. But what if that all changed? What if, in an alternate timeline, Colin Baker had gotten just a bit more time on the TV show? What if Colin Baker had stayed for season 24? Now I know this is a what if quite a few of you have been asking and waiting for, so I hope it's worth the long wait. So first things first, what would have to change so that Colin Baker could stay on for another year? Well, in our timeline, Colin had asked for a meeting with the BBC's then head of drama, Jonathan Powell. In this meeting, Colin had asked Powell if he could stay on for another full season, as opposed to just doing one more story that Powell had suggested. Colin made the understandable points that he didn't want to return to the show for another couple of weeks' work and have the public still view him as a Doctor, meaning that anyone who might want to hire him in the meantime couldn't. In our timeline, this meeting didn't really go anywhere, with Powell apparently just saying, "Okay, we'll go away and think about what you said, and you go away and think about what we said, and we'll discuss it some more." This was the last that Colin would ever hear from Powell. But let's suppose, for the sake of this alternate timeline, that this meeting goes differently this time round. Let's say that in our alternate timeline, Colin and Jonathan Powell then have a second meeting, where an agreement is eventually reached. Powell agrees to let Colin stay on for another season, but informs him that it would definitely be his last. It's actually quite surprising that this didn't happen in our timeline, as it isn't like Colin was really asking for that much now, was he? But I think the fact it didn't just speaks to how little interest or care Powell and several other of the BBC high-ups at the time had in the show. Anyway, back to our alternate timeline. So season 23 still plays out the exact same and still ends the same as it did in our timeline. This meeting, as far as I'm aware, took place long after season 23 had finished filming and been broadcast, so I can't see why there would need to be any changes to it. But the following season, season 24, would have to have a few little changes. It wouldn't start off with Time and Nirani. You see, in our timeline, if Colin had stayed on for another year, J&T had intended to show Mel's proper introduction story. So I'm going to have this introduction be the first story of the alternate season 24. But what would this story be about, beyond properly introducing Mel? Well, in the absence of any better options, I'm going to choose the BBC Past Doctor Adventures book Business Unusual as Mel's first story. In our timeline, Gary Russell had written this to be Mel's first story, from her own chronological perspective anyway. There are of course other options I could maybe have gone with, such as a version of the Big Finish audio The Wrong Doctors, which also attempts to depict Mel's first meeting with the Doctor, albeit leading to some complicated temporal shenanigans, and there's also JNT's original idea for Mel's introduction, which would have seen her meeting the Sixth Doctor and helping him to defeat a plot by the Master to disrupt the global stock market. But this latter idea ended up being ignored by the ultimate foe when Mel didn't recognise the Master, and I can't really see the Wrong Doctors working with the direction the TV show was going in at that time. So Business Unusual opens the alternate season 24. It wouldn't just feature Mel's chronological first meeting with the Doctor though. The book also saw the Sixth Doctor meet the Brigadier and fight against the Nestine consciousness. I can't see any reason why a TV version wouldn't have included these elements, so I'm going to keep them in. Paradise Towers would still be up next with very little differences, if any. Probably the same with Delta and the Bannerman too. But Time and Nirvana would now come at the end of the season and would be the Sixth Doctor's final story. It would also be 3 episodes long now, not 4. The Sixth Doctor would regenerate at the end after he had defeated the Rani. The newly regenerated Seventh Doctor would still be played by Sylvester McCoy, because again I can't personally see why not. McCoy's first story would be Dragonfire, which would start off the alternate season 25 and still see Mel's exit and Ace joining the Doctor. Season 25 would then still have Remembrance of the Daleks, Silver Nemesis, and The Greatest Show in the Galaxy. The Happiness Patrol would have to be moved to the alternate season 26, where it would now replace Ghostlight. Sorry to any fans of Ghostlight. Also, as for the matter of the title sequence for the alternate season 24, I think a Colin Baker version of Sylvester McCoy's titles would probably happen, but due to me struggling to find a clean version that was of a decent enough quality, I opted to use the 1986 titles for the What If intro earlier. I think Colin would probably have asked JNT if his costume could be changed up a bit as well, as I know he wanted to at the start of season 23 in our timeline, but JNT had refused at that time. Maybe we might have ended up seeing the Sixth Doctor in his blue coat, or perhaps a darker version instead. Obviously, if Colin had stayed on for another year, it would have impacted Sylvester McCoy's era in quite a few ways. Not only would stories have to be moved around in this alternate timeline, but we would also now only have 2 seasons for the Seventh Doctor, as opposed to 3. But maybe this could work well in some ways, as now McCoy wouldn't still be trying to find his feet during season 24. He would start with the Machiavellian persona straight away. All in all, I would have loved to have seen Colin get another season as the Doctor. Even with just another year, he might have been able to continue mellowing his Doctor, but still at the same time show that there was more to him than meets the eye. But as I said earlier, it could have impacted the Seventh Doctor's era quite a bit, so who knows if this alternate timeline would have worked out better for everyone. But one person it would definitely work out well for would of course be Colin Baker himself. He was so cruelly denied the chance to flesh out and develop his Doctor more and to take the character in a direction that he wanted to. Colin really did deserve far better than he got in our timeline. But anyway, so there's my take on what if Colin Baker had stayed for season 24. But what did you think? Do you agree with my take on it or not? And would you have done anything differently? Please let me know in the comments section below. Anyway, so thanks for watching, hope you liked it. Please don't forget to press that subscribe button below as well as press the bell icon at the side of it so that you'll stay notified of when all my new videos come out. This channel currently has 1098 subscribers as of the time of writing and recording this video, but if we can get to 2500 by the end of this year, then I will do another Q&A where you can ask me whatever questions you want. Just keep them polite, please. Also, please wait, and I shall see you all in another video. So, until next time, bye bye!